That's honoring them and honoring yourself. How did you come up with that idea of just doing it once a month? And this is good to have organization because in
Oh, right.
architecture, right, and art and design, we are very loving and we're very caring because we're creating for someone else. So we have to be at a certain like mental and emotional stability.
If I'm ever feeling stressed out or overwhelmed or just like I don't even know what to do next, I rely on the breath work and then just trusting what you hear and what information comes to you. And so it was during a breathwork session that I was like, how do I even organize my time? What am I supposed to do? And it was like, put a day on your calendar and use that day as the day that you meet with people. And so I just trusted it and went with it. And it did. It helped me organize my time and organize my months. A way to kind of keep me organized. It keeps my nervous system regulated. It's just been instrumental in just me staying level headed and organized and keeping my mental health a priority.
Like it's so simple. You use the breath. So you're not even doing like super complicated things, just breathing, connecting with yourself and your own person.
Like cuts through all the bullshit and I'm going to trust the information that I receive and I'm going to take action. Usually the messages aren't even that profound. So yeah,
Yeah.
when you emailed me about your podcast, I was so excited because the fact that you are bringing together the two modalities that I love more than anything is self-discovery and spiritual work, and then design and architecture. I always felt like I had spiritual stuff on this side and I had my design architecture stuff on this side. And I've always wanted to find a way to just like bring them together and do it all under one umbrella. It's still like two parts of me that I want to express in all the things that I do. So I was like, oh my God, somebody else feels the same way. That's awesome.
This is the Space Whispering podcast with Rainy. Today's guest is Jenn Smith. She has her own architecture firm and an online business, workshops, one-on-one sessions online. But her main business is physical, and she works with many clients and has built many, many beautiful homes. One of the things I realized of her design is that they're very different. And we talk very deeply about that, how she shows up authentically and how that has shifted her work during the years, and the new world of technology that allows us to share our light with the world and our visions, and how it's very important to get to know the person you're designing to, because we in a way are just a vehicle, even though we're humans, of transitioning and helping other humans to get the best of design. Jenn is super sweet. She has a very deep attention to details and is very profound and is very precious. She also has many freebies on her website, which is linked on the show notes. And she's giving us a special freebie. And the freebie, it's Homemaker, how to design the perfect floor plan for a soulful home. Isn't that cool, guys? Go check it out. The link is below. And I hope you enjoy this episode. And if you do, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the podcast. This is not monetized, so it helps a lot if you subscribe or like, comment, review the episodes, review the podcast. I would love to hear from you. You can also send me an email, hello@rainy.co. You can give me recommendations of guests that you want to hear on the podcast. And yeah, this is something that has brought so much light into my heart, and I hope you enjoy it too. Jenn is just a precious person, and I am so lucky to have met her. I also want to add another note that I took one of her workshops on lighting, and it was amazing. I learned so much. So if you're going through a renovation or need tips, please reach out to Jenn. She will guide you. I love getting to know people, and I go through my own daily practices to help me be present, to help me show up as myself, as authentic. And it's so amazing to work with people that do the same or want to do the same, and also to see peers doing the same, that the love is being spread, that this new vision is being used. So it's not about aesthetic or how it looks, it's also about feeling good. So let's whisper together and show up as authentically as we can. See you soon, Space Whispers. Kisses, besitos. Hi, Jen.
Hey, Rainy.
How are you today?
I'm good. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, absolutely. This will be fun.
Yeah, it will. So I was wondering more about well, I want to start with your name, first of all. Is that your full name, Jen?
Right. No, it's actually Jennifer, and I shortened it to Jen. It's actually Jennifer Lynn Killian Smith is my full name. So there's kind of a story that goes with it, because when I was growing up, obviously my name was Jennifer Lynn, and it's like the most common name you can have if you were born in 1980. And so it was nothing, unique or anything. Everybody, several kids in my class always named Jennifer, but my last name was unique. So Killian was kind of like the one thing that made it a little bit special. And then I got married, and my husband's last name is Smith. So then, I was going to be Jennifer Smith. I was like, that is going to be just the most common name ever. So I decided, I was like, I'm just going to keep Killian in there. I'm not even going to change any of it. I'm just going to tack Smith onto the end, and I'll just have a really long, maybe that'll make it a little bit different. But then when I started my architecture company, I already went by Jenn a lot of times. And so I thought, well, I'll just make it Jenn Smith Architect. So that's kind of been, what I go by now since I started my company.
It's so interesting when we change, or we go back to our full name because we accept it, or it's too complicated. Let's shorten it.
It was, yes, exactly. It's like just short and sweet. We'll just exactly. So you can remember it. You'll know how to spell it. I guess the only thing is Jenn has two N's. That's the only weird thing about it now. But even still, that's pretty common.
It looks beautiful now, Jen Smith.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that.
So why architecture?
I have just always loved designing houses. When I was little, I would sketch house plans, just for fun. My dad had a job where he would bring home graph paper for me, and I would just sketch out floor plans. And it all started, I think my parents had talked about building a house one day, at my grandmother's farm or something. They had some extra property. We never ended up doing it, but they were thinking about it. So they had all these house plan magazines. And so that was my first introduction to really seeing a house kind of laid out in plan view. And then when I saw houses that I liked as a kid, I would think oh, wonder what the house looks like on the inside. And I would just try to draw it up myself, or I would try to design my own dream house or my dream bedroom. And so then when I got old enough to start thinking about college, it just seemed like the most natural thing to do, even though I had no experience whatsoever. No one in my family was an architect. Nobody was a builder. There wasn't really any. I think the closest was an electrician. My dad and my grandpa were both in the electrical field. But aside from that, I knew absolutely nothing about architecture. So when I got to college, felt like being thrown into the lion's den, to say, because I just had no idea. I didn't know just how difficult it was how difficult the schooling was going to be. I had no clue. So I really was going in blind, and I just loved it so much. I loved the creative problem solving aspect to it. And so the more exposure I got to, just all the different topics and the architectural history and, all of the different aspects of architecture, I enjoyed all of it, but I still loved the residential side of it the most. So even after going through school and working for a commercial architect for about 10 years and getting licensed, I still eventually came back around to being I just love doing houses. It's still about the houses for me. That's where I enjoy myself the most. And my husband, we met in architecture school, but then when we moved after school, we went to the same place, which is here in Chattanooga, and he ended up getting a job doing construction. So he never actually got his architecture license. He ended up getting a contractor's license instead. And so the first job I got after leaving the firm and having my license was he and I doing a firm together where we did design and build. So I was kind of the architecture side of it and he was the construction side of it. So we got to really explore doing the design build business, working together, doing all that about the same time as we started having kids and renovating houses. So we had a lot going on. Probably about 15 years ago, we decided to do all that at the same time. And yeah, it was great. It was fun. But yeah, eventually we decided that working so closely together and just being, we are on the same team anyway because we're married and we had children together. So, and then working side by side, it was just a little too much. So we were like, I said, I think I'm going to start my own firm. And he was like, oh, thank God. Support you 100%, but I love that. I love the sound of that. I can't wait. So I think we were both just ready to go in different directions. But he still is a very integral part of my business. He does my books and stuff like that. And I always ask for his advice on construction related matters, detailing type stuff. I'm always like, is this, where? I mean, even last night, I'm like, where do these piers need to go exactly under the stairs? So stuff like that. I'm always getting feedback and all from him. So yeah, it feels like architecture has just been in my life kind of always.
Yeah. And even your partner, so it goes very, very intricate in life.
It does. It runs deep. Yes. Yes.
It's interesting because it's in school. I realized that theory and history creates the like romanticism of architecture and design, right?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
They show us like the best and like
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes. Like here's like the beautiful, romantic, theoretical, like beautiful parts of it. And then you get to the real world and you're like, this is nothing like what you made it out to be. If I have to draw another bathroom detail, like they don't mention that in school at all.
they don't. Only towards like the end where we're like detailing. Yeah. That's why we a lot of people I've realized like even friends that are architects, their parents are like, hey, I have an electricity issue. Can you come fix it? It's like, Mom, I'm an architect.
You need to call an electrician. Yes.
Did that happen to you?
It seems like I was going to say what I thought you were going to say was like, I want to do an addition on my house. If you need to practice or anything, do you think you could come draw it or take a look at it? I'll come look at it. I've learned now, like, if we're friends, we don't need to work together, but I will gladly advise you and do sketches and do whatever you need to help. But I don't want to commingle finances and our friendship.
That's a good way to put it, where it's like, hey, these are my finances. You're my friend. I'll give you
Exactly.
advice. I love giving advice, but
Yes.
we won't work together.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly. I don't want large sums of money being, yeah, part of our friendship.
yeah, that's nice. And so you always had your own firm, so you never worked with someone for someone.
I did. For about 10 years, I worked. So, straight out of college, I got a job working for a small firm here in Chattanooga. We did schools, we did a lot of office buildings, assisted living facilities, kind of large scale office commercial type work like that. So I did that for about 10 years. And that was where I got all of my hours for, to take the tests and all, and did all that working for someone else. And then it was so I worked there for 9 years, got licensed while I was there, and then had I think I took my last test to get licensed while I was like 6 months pregnant. So I stayed there for maybe another 6 months after my son was born. And then that was when I was like, I can't do both being a mom and balancing this 9 to 5 because I was just like, my head wasn't in it. He was always in daycare. There was just so much to it that was when my husband had already started his design build company and was looking for an architect to kind of fill that design professional role in his business. So I was like, oh, this is a perfect opportunity. Why don't I just leave my job and I'll come work with you? And so that's what we did. And I stayed there. We did that for about 7 years together. And then it was in 2019 that I finally started working for myself.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot of experiences.
I really feel like I don't know that I think part of me always wanted to have my own firm because I like the autonomy to do my own thing, but I think struggled with the imposter syndrome of just like, I don't know that I'm good enough to have my own firm and being responsible for everything. I didn't know that that was something that I was cut out for. But after working with my husband for so long, you just get to a point where you're like, I can do this, you know? I see all these other people doing it. I can do this. I'm capable.
You do a good job because what I've seen,
You?
it's amazing. We talked a little bit just like texting, and you mentioned that you see or I saw you talking about that you see clients like or new clients once a
Mm-hmm.
month.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, I do.
So you
Yes.
organize everything around that.
I try. Yes. Yes. I get very overwhelmed very easily. So it made sense for me to set aside one day a month and be like, I'm just going to stack all of my new consultation visits on this one day. Because what would happen is I would end up having like one a week and it just would throw off my whole week. And I felt like I couldn't get ahead. Like I know I need new clients to keep the pipeline filled, but then I also wasn't moving any other projects along because I would just feel so scattered throughout the week. So yeah, putting everybody on one day helped me. I will say I've kind of gotten off track with doing that a little bit, but there for a while it was like the one thing that kind of kept me sane was like, you want to talk, it's going to have to be on this one day, so just pick your time.
That's so nice. That's not a lot of people do that because I think there's a little bit of fear around it. And, if like, what if this client, leaves because I'm not available?
Yeah. Oh, and it's happened. It has definitely happened where I'm like, oh, well, my day was yesterday and now they're asking for a meeting today. So, yeah, I can meet you in, 6 weeks or whatever it might be. And some would say yes. And then at the last minute be like, sorry, we found somebody else in the meantime. But I know that if I don't live by the motto that if it's not a win win, like it's a win for me and a win for them, then it's not a win for anybody. So, if they wanted somebody quicker, then I wasn't going to be the right fit for them anyway. It just having faith and trusting the process that the right clients come and want to work with me just as much as I want to work with them. I don't want anybody to feel like they're, you know, that I'm going to mislead them in any way, that I'm always available when I'm really very busy, in fact. So,
That's very nice. That's honoring them and honoring yourself.
right. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So how did you come up with that idea of just doing it once a month? And also because it's nice to know like other architects or even like students, this is good to have
Hmm.
organization because in
Right.
architecture, right, and art and design, we are very loving and we're very caring because we're creating for someone else, right? So we have to be at a certain like mental and emotional stability to be able to, yeah.
Yes. So I guess it was probably 2022. I signed up to take a course, like a business coaching course. It was like a year-long course. And it was all about putting yourself out there, how to promote yourself, getting publicity, and growing your business. And so I learned a lot about how to, create partnerships with people to constantly be filling that pipeline and a lot of strategies to help bring income into the business, like income producing activities, how to organize your time, how to create, she called it your CEO schedule, like my CEO, but it's for a woman. And the other aspect to her business course that I didn't really know about at the time was this hypno breathwork is what it was called. So once a month we would all do these breathwork sessions, but it was basically you're doing a special type of breathing and they're kind of walking you through it, prompting you with questions, but you really put your mind into this theta state and all of the other kind of thoughts and worries, everything just kind of falls away and you can really like bring up like questions that you have about your business. And for me, that was one of like that course ended over a year ago, but that breath work aspect that she taught us, I keep doing that. So I've found other teachers and other breath work, instructors that I can do their meditations. And if I'm ever feeling stressed out or overwhelmed or just like I don't even know what to do next, like there's 500 things I could do and I could be working on that could make me money potentially, but I don't know what to do. Like that's when I rely on the breath work. And it's just like going in and honestly, it's like tapping into your higher self and getting the answers from something higher than you and your conscious mind, and then just trusting what you hear and what information comes to you because it's coming from a place that knows you and what your goals are and what your aspirations are. And so it was during a breathwork session that I was like, how do I even organize my time? What am I supposed to do? And it was like, put a day on your calendar and use that day as the day that you meet with people. And if they meet with you, great. And if that day doesn't work out or it gets full and you want to add more days, then so be it. But that one day never really has ever like filled up that I felt like, oh, I need to add more days to my calendar. And so I just trusted it and went with it. And it did. It helped me organize my time and organize my months and actually keep my client intake, steady and not allow everybody to kind of come rushing in 1 month and then not being able to stagger the new projects out. And, it's just a way to kind of keep me organized. It keeps my nervous system regulated. It's just been very, I guess, instrumental in just me staying level headed and organized and keeping my mental health a priority.
Wow, that is so beautiful. It's interesting because we don't talk a lot about that. Like that is so precious and so beautiful. And mainly like women have these like huge intuition that we ignore by being or busy or or being distracted or not trusting it, right? Because we're not really allowed to trust that because that's crazy or that's from the past.
Yeah.
um like yeah. And now going back, like it's so simple. You use the breath. So you're not even doing like super complicated thing, just breathing, connecting with yourself, and your own person is like, yeah, let's
Yeah, it does.
yeah.
It like cuts through all the bullshit and like gives you the information that you really need and you need to act on it. So that's all I can really say is I'm going to trust the information that I receive and I'm going to take action on the information that I receive. So every time I do one, I'll go in and put my notes, whatever my messages were, and then the only thing I have to do is take action on whatever message I received. So it's not even that hard. Usually the messages aren't even that profound. Like just take one day. Like stop making it so complicated because that's what I do. I overcomplicate things. I make it way more difficult than it needs to be, and it's just a way to help me cut through the nonsense. So yeah, when
Yeah.
you emailed me about your podcast, I was so excited because the fact that you are bringing together like these like the two modalities that I love more than anything is like self-discovery and spiritual work and then design and architecture. Like forever, those are like, I always felt like I had spiritual stuff on this side and I had my design architecture stuff on this side. And I've always wanted to find a way to just like bring them together and do it all under one umbrella without having to feel like, well, that's this side and that's this side. Like it's still like two parts of me that I want to express in all the things that I do. So I was like, oh my God, somebody else feels the same way. That's awesome.
Yeah, it took me so long to be able to express it and to be able to bring it together. I had help. I had good friends that were like, this is who you are, let's combine both things. And
Mm-hmm.
even after that, like it was similar to when you did the course. So it was like 2022. My
Mm-hmm.
friend created my website and she does pathfinding. And I was like, she said, we're gonna call your website like your business Rainy. Like
Uh-huh.
Rainy. And I was like, and I looked at her, she's taller than me, and I looked at her and I'm like, and she was looking forward, we were walking, and I was like, I felt so much fear and I was like, okay, this is right. This is the right
Uh-huh.
path.
Uh-huh. Yes.
Very fun. And like, yeah, so I understand you, and I know that because I'm an architect, I'm a designer. I know other architects and
Hmm.
designers feel the same way. And
Yes.
like to be successful in life, like you see, and I've read many books, and you see, listen to many podcasts, which you probably do, and many people do. It's like you hear them, they meditate. There's something
Hmm.
in their day that they do to reconnect with themselves.
Hmm.
Any successful person does
Yes.
that.
Yes, exactly. I know. And so I remember also, so the way I got started in, I wouldn't say I was spiritual growing up. I grew up in a small town that there was a church on every corner. Like I had religion kind of just like thrown at me. Like it was everywhere. There was a Christian college in town. They came to my school once a week. Like we had a very religious upbringing, let's put it that way. And it always like left me feeling a lot of fear that I didn't know how to reconcile really growing up. And it was in my 20s that I watched, it was like back to back. I saw it was a documentary about a guy named Edgar Casey who would go into the Akashic Records. I'd never heard of him, never done anything related to that, but that documentary was fascinating to me. And then it was followed up by a documentary on Nostradamus and the end of the world in 2012. And that brought up so much fear in me. Like, I don't want to die. Like, the fear of dying, like, just so much fear came bubbling up with it. And it was like those two episodes, just watching on like the Discovery Channel, brought something up in me that lit a fire. And I was like, like, there was so much passion behind just like, I couldn't find enough information out there. Like, I needed to figure out self discovery, spirituality. And I was just like, I don't think I'd ever really read much about other religions. I started diving into anything I could get my hands on, whether it was other religions or spirituality, the Bible itself, just like all of these alternatives to what I had been raised being told. Like I wanted to hear everyone's perspective on everything. So that Akashic record idea in my 20s that I heard was like, that's really cool. So fast forward like maybe to 2018. So another 10 years later, I was listening to a podcast and a girl was on there and she taught a course on the Akashic records, on like how you can read the Akashic records for yourself. And I thought like that spoke to me because I'd always been fascinated with it since that one time. But I'd never heard it really mentioned ever again. And so I would listen. I've just like bought the course, devoured it, listened to her always like on her podcast. And I had done a record with, or I'd done a reading with another girl. Like we all kind of went into a group and we could practice on each other and stuff. So one girl had done a reading for me and my question was always like, how can I bring spirituality and design together? How can I bring these two parts of myself together? And the answer that she came back with was that it's you that's doing the work. So whether your clients are experiencing that spiritual aspect of designing a home with you is not necessarily important because you're already infusing everything that you do with that side of yourself, and it's going to show up in the work and it's going to show up in what you design regardless of if you're trying to do it intentionally or not, whether anybody knows about it or not, whether the clients realize it, it's still happening. So it allowed me to kind of see it from a perspective that I don't think I'd ever really considered before, was that I'm already doing it whether I'm advertising that I'm doing it or not. So I thought that was kind of cool.
That is cool because it's a lot of people say when you start healing or you start accepting yourself more or how you show up, like you mentioned self-discovery, self-worth, all these, when you show up like that, people feel it.
Mm-hmm.
And because you're feeling it, because we are showcasing that. And so people are like attracted to you based on how you show up. But also what she said gave you some clarity, right? It gave you clarity and it also acceptance. Like, hey, this is me. So the people that are gonna
Yeah.
come to me are gonna feel it. Yeah.
Yes, exactly, exactly. And then now it feels like just not trying to rush it, not trying to force it, not trying to make it something that it wasn't ready to be yet. Like it's going to grow into whatever it's meant to be. And now I see it more and more. Like the fact that we're having this conversation, like the people that I'm looking for are also looking for me. Like our people are out there and clearly we find each other, right? And so people who want a soulful home or want that connection with the place that they live and the land they live on, like they find me too. Like I work with wonderful people. I don't work with anybody that doesn't already, like you said, resonate with me on that like energetic frequency. I agree.
And I have two questions. What is Akashic Records? And the other one is, how do people find you?
How do people find me, or how do,
Yeah,
yeah, okay.
yeah.
So the Akashic Records, if you were to just look up the dictionary definition, it's basically the energetic library of your soul's history. So all your lifetimes, all of, anything that's happened for your soul, all souls basically. It's like an energetic library for all souls, and anything that basically has an energetic footprint has a story or an archive in this library. It's Akashic Record. And so to find me, you can find me on my website at jennsmitharchitect.com. I have an online business which is called yourpocketarchitect.com. And then I also have Instagram at Jenn Smith Architect.
When I say how people find you, because we were talking about like,
Oh,
yes.
you mean like not like that? I see. Yeah. Okay.
No, but that's good, because then I
Yeah.
have more questions about what
Okay.
you just
Good.
said.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so most of my work comes through, especially my one-on-one clients. So when I started my business, it's all referral based for the most part. Everything I do is pretty local, and they're all just from referrals, mostly other contractors, other architects. I think we're all just very close knit Southern town. Everybody wants to help each other out. So and I do the same if it's something I can't get to quickly and the client really wants to get moving on it, then I have a whole list of people that I can refer to. I mean, like you said, all of us architects and builders, we all know each other. And so we all want to support each other and make it a fun, successful experience for any client looking to build a house. But then since I started doing Instagram and trying to promote an online business. So it's kind of funny the way I went to a shaman class like way back when, and they were doing, you journey. I don't know how much you know about shamanism, but you like journey and ask questions, and whoever's going on the journey for you comes back with an answer. And I had asked the same question, like, how can I bring spirituality and architecture together to serve more people? And her answer to me was like, you need to go into nature and write. And okay. So I was like, okay, I can do that. So I just was writing about the experience of building a home, like the process of building a home, what that's like to build a house, what you can expect when you're going through the process. And in 2021, everything had slowed down tremendously. So I didn't have a lot of work. So I really did have a lot more time on my hands. So I was like, oh, I'll turn all this stuff that I had written into an ebook. And then maybe I can just sell the ebook as a resource for people who want to build a home. I thought I would just write this ebook and then people would buy it, but I didn't have an online presence. So there wasn't really anybody for me to sell the book to. And so that started on this other journey of being having an online business, not just being a one-on-one type of architect who you hired and did a house plan for you. I wanted to sell this ebook online and have an online business. And so that has now evolved into, I don't really have the ebook anymore because it turns out that wasn't really what a lot of people wanted. I wouldn't say I sold a whole lot of them, but now it's kind of evolved into, what do people actually want? What is there on, how can I serve people, not just in my local area? How can I serve people, more or less across the country in ways that is helpful for them while they're building a house? Or if like you're another architect or designer, how can I support you in making your business more successful, or helping you get more clients or do better drawing sets, whatever it is? Like, how can I support you? So it's actually evolved into something more than maybe what I had intended it to be. but it's also amazing. So I do have some clients now that have just found me online, and now we work together doing, strategy sessions or courses or whatever it may be. How people find me has actually, yeah, it's grown from word of mouth to now more of just, the internet.
The internet. Yeah, there's like such a big community is forming and has been forming for many years because of, the online presence, and for you to be called to do this ebook and, just so you can start rowing.
I know. Yeah, exactly. I did not realize that's what was happening. Right. And then it was like I took the first course and it was funny because I wrote this ebook, but then it sent me down this path of having to create community with people who were just other business owners and me trying to learn with other women who were trying to be business owners. And it was less about architecture. And then it was just trying to be a successful business owner, and we were all trying to find what niche we could fill and how we could better serve our audience and whatever it is. And it was this, then I started on this kind of business journey of finding coaches and people that I could learn from, and then also getting other accountability partners to help support me on that journey. So, and now I have a virtual assistant that lives in the Philippines. I have a brand marketing consultant that lives in Europe. And so we all get on a Zoom call, and it's like, it blows my mind thinking 5 years ago that I would have kind of, a team of people that are from all over the world. Like, that's crazy.
I know. I know. I love technology.
I know. It's great.
And it's just starting.
It is. I know. And like the AI aspect of it, like I never even learned SketchUp. I use Revit and I do some 3D stuff on Revit, but I'm just not good at doing renderings. It's never a service I've offered. So Revit allows me to do the 3D stuff, but now it's so easy for me to just pop my rendering. I mean, it's my work. I'm not asking AI to create something new, but I'm just asking AI to color this house and give it the prompts, and it comes out, and there's no way I could ever recreate that in the time frame that in the options that I get. It's part of, yeah, technology that supports my business in a way that I don't think I ever saw coming.
It's freeing you, it's giving you more time, and it's producing something. It's helping you. It's an add-on to your services.
Yes, absolutely. It's a total add on that doesn't even take that much of my time. But the clients absolutely love it because they get this, a flat kind of black and white shaded image. And then you add color to it and a background. And it's like they're looking at a whole different house all of a sudden.
What program do you use to do that? What AI tool?
What is it called? Oh,
It's okay. I was just curious.
It's Archivinci. I
Okay.
almost said Archivision, but I think it's Archivinci. I was using a program called NewArt, and it's designed for more like fashion. So my prompts weren't, I struggled a lot with my prompts. Like
Oh,
I would say something, and then it was like that was all it could do. Right. So there
yeah.
was a lot of editing that went into the new Arc program. And so now I've started using that Archie Vinci. And it's like the first one, I'm like, dang, that's pretty good. Right. Like I can still tweak it a little bit, but if I don't have much time, I can still turn out something really good because it's geared towards architecture. So I think it makes it a lot easier.
It makes more sense as well. So, what is the process of building a building or a house, like from your ebook? Can you give us like
Oh
a
gosh. It was a very so the when I was trying to weave this sort of, I don't want to say spiritual context into it, but there was, especially in the beginning, a lot of like, know your why. Like, why are you building a house? Like, why do you want to do this? Like, you're embarking on something that's going to be stressful and it's going to cost a lot of money, and you need to fully understand your reasons for doing this before you get into it, because if your reason and your why is not strong enough, you're going to want to opt out at the first hardship, because you're going to see trials in the process. It's just a given. It's not like if something's going to go wrong, it's when is something going to go wrong. And there's just the overwhelm, there's the design fatigue that can happen when you're making thousands of decisions. And that's really what it is. It's just I think the volume of choices and decisions you have to make when you're building a house. And so my ebook was laying out all of those choices and all of those questions that you are going to be asked, like before you get into the process and don't realize what all you're going to have to answer. Go ahead and start, at least think about it, right? Conceptually, like, okay, I know I'm going to have to pick the color of hinges I want before I pick anything else, right? Like little things that you don't think about. Like, oh, I have to pick the roof color before I pick anything else. I wanted to let people know kind of the process and also dig deep into themselves and really make sure that they were designing a house that was functional, that fit their needs, that it was within their budget, that they weren't kind of pie in the sky mentality thinking they could get something for way less than it was actually going to cost. So that was really the basis of the ebook, was really to help people understand themselves and the process before they actually went through it. And a few people that bought it were like, well, I'm glad I bought your book because I don't want to build a house now. I was like, well, see, saved you a lot of money then.
Wow, it's so interesting because that's what I was going to say, that by you, first of all, is very strong. So the why. So you're anchoring, people are anchoring their roots. So they're strong roots. And then when the wind comes, it doesn't matter because they knew that wind was going to come eventually, or the rain, or et cetera, et cetera.
Yes, yes.
And so, but what a powerful question, and how beautiful are you detailing this? And then I was thinking, like, wow, this is the person she is, that she's not just thinking about, like, oh, I don't want to say that to people because then I won't have a business, right? You're like, no, no, no. I want people to be very aware before they even come and work with me.
Yes, exactly. Right. Like, I don't want it to be like, I have clients that come in and they've laid out this vision board. You can tell they have put in the work before they even met with me to even start designing the house. They had a vision for what they wanted. And then I have some clients that I don't think they have done anything. Like, they're just like, here you go. Like, I don't know what I want, but I've told you what size house I need and I want it to be rustic. And you're like, is that it? Is that all you got? Like, I want as much information as you can give me, like all of it. How many pets you have? What are their names? How old are they? Like, are you a dog person, cat? Like, I want to know all of it. So, yeah.
Yeah. And how does it help you to know the people designed for them? Because I
Well,
think that's important.
it is important. And like you mentioned earlier, like, I've always been intuitive. I've just always trusted my feelings and my gut. And I feel the more I know them, I make choices when I'm in design on their behalf. Like, I'm not going to go down a rabbit hole doing one sort of design when when I know something about who they are and their personality. It's going to take me in a different direction. So I try to put myself in their shoes when I'm designing the house. So, okay, if I'm this person that loves being outside and, wants to immerse myself in nature, let's just say, I'm not going to design the kitchen facing the driveway or somewhere that doesn't have a view or a space that they're going to use all the time. I want it to be as close to nature and make them feel like they're at a window wall, or right. So it's really how I can put myself in their shoes and use my own intuitive knowledge and their personalities and what they've told me to make design decisions that I think are going to best fit their lifestyle.
Yeah. And that's why your designs are always different, because you're designing for them and not based on an aesthetic.
It's not me. It has nothing to do with me. I'm basically the channel to get their ideas onto paper, right? Like, kind of like a midwife, right? Like, you're just trying to get the baby earthside in a way that's everybody is healthy and happy and strong, right? You want it to be an enjoyable experience. And that's how I feel about architecture. Like, I'm trying to get this conceptual idea out of your head and onto paper, and like, then once it's on paper, it's born, right? Like, it exists, it's here, and then you can kind of hand it off and start doing that other real world stuff, the pricing, getting with contractors, subcontractors, moving earth, and really seeing it grow up. But yeah, we're just trying to take something conceptual and really bring it to life.
Yeah. And you're very detailed because I never think about the color of the hinges, and you mentioned that.
Well, because me and my husband did design build for so long. And so I was always like, I started helping people in that design process because I don't know that I ever, in my first job doing commercial work, I never had to do any of that stuff. We would, you put a spec book together and kind of handed it off, and, you kind of maybe picked a color when they came back on shop drawings or something. But when you're in a house, it's so much more personal, and every decision builds on something else. So you pick your hinges on the doors before you even really pick what style door you want. But that color hinge needs to probably relate to what color door handles you want. You might want it to relate to your light fixtures or your plumbing fixtures or other metals that you have in your house. So if you haven't really thought that far ahead yet on what color theme or, scheme you want to go with, you can kind of get derailed a little bit in your decision making.
Yeah. Yeah. I usually do the door and then the hinges, but you're like, let's do the hinges and then the opposite. And I love that. So, if I'm your client, do
Yeah.
you offer them several services where it's like, it's not only design that you're doing for them, you're all the way to like, you give them the keys of the house?
We do.
Or,
So that is a service. Yes. So I kind of break my services up into three phases. It's schematic design, and then I do essentials design, which is a set that's made for a builder. It's the construction set. And then there's a kind of construction administration, but not, it's almost like construction assistance is what I call it. I'm just there to help you through the construction process, help you with the decisions as they come up, and really keep track of your materials and finishes that you've made selections on in a spreadsheet so that you can refer back to it later. Because I know a lot of times people make choices and then there's nobody really to say, well, what color did we pick, or what color grout was that we used in the bathroom? So we keep a record of everything during construction so we know if anything needs to be touched up later or whatever. You have a record of it. So it's really three phases, but the first phase, the schematic phase, is what sets the tone for everything else. So that's the bulk of the work we do is going to be in that schematic phase. So it's when we get the design laid out, you do site analysis. We know how to respond to the different elements on site, whether it's sun patterns, wind flow, views, noises, whatever it is. Like, what are our opportunities? What are the threats? So we analyze the site. We design a house that responds to the site to meet, take advantage of all of the different opportunities. Then once we do the schematic design, I also take them through a preliminary selections checklist, and I have that for free. It's on my website. If anybody wants it, like, you can go download it. But we do that in the schematic phase too, because it helps them to start kind of seeing all of these decisions they need to make. And we go through the whole house. So there's a question about what color hinges you want, or at least what color door handles you want, because that kind of lends itself to the hinge color. And they start having to think about all of this stuff. And so some of them I'll be like, well, you don't have to know right now what color doorknobs you want or what color cabinet pulls you want, but just be thinking about it because it's going to come up at some point. So we go through that, and usually not usually, that piece, that spec list, project checklist goes with that schematic set. So then that whole schematic set is what the builder gets. It's enough for them to do pricing. It's enough for them to understand what level of finishes the client is looking for. And then it makes sure that the pricing comes back really accurate. So there's not going to be any surprises down the road. And we usually do it it's kind of your pie in the sky opportunity, right? Go for what you really want on this project checklist with this initial design. Let's put out there, like, if you could have everything you wanted, let's get it quoted just like that. So if you want metal roofs on the whole house, if you want hardwood floors throughout the whole house, we'll put that in now, knowing that if it comes in too high, maybe it's not a metal roof, maybe it's shingles, maybe you don't get hardwood floors throughout, maybe it's LVT, or maybe you switch to carpet upstairs, or we can start then pulling back so that the house can fit into the budget, but at least we know it's
your
intentional.
dreams, your big
Exactly.
dreams, your
Yeah,
big
you know what the
ideas.
price of your big dream is. And you can either
Exactly.
make the house small. Like then you have options. So then we go into that construction set knowing, okay, these are the changes we're going to make. We're going to adjust the set so that now it matches what you can afford. It starts, and the more we get into it, the more real it gets. That first set is very, like you said, schematic, and then you're building it. And then during construction, it's very real. You don't have time to sit and research and think about things. So you got to make those decisions during construction.
And that's how precious it is, that beginning process with the clients. Because once, like you were saying, once you know them, even during construction, you can make decisions for them because
Mhm.
you are the one that have guided them from the very, very start. That one day they picked for to meet with you, that precious, precious day says everything until the end of
Yes.
the project.
Oh,
And
yeah.
even if they don't work with you all the way to the end, that initial schematic design, they can take that baby conception, they conceive the baby, but they can go and take it to, someone else and they'll birth it for them. But at least they have the basis.
Exactly. And that happens, and that's why I break it up, because sometimes you get that schematic set and you're not willing to compromise. There's nowhere that you're willing to give up, and sometimes just pausing on the whole process is what they want to do. Like, well, we'll just wait and see how things evolve. So the set never moves from schematic into construction or beyond. It's like, okay, we've got what we want and now we're going to hold it. I don't know how many times I have people who are like, yeah, we ended up selling that piece of property and now we're just going to wait. But we love the house, so now we're just waiting to see if we can find some land and maybe interest rates and all the things that go into affording to build a new house come into play. So they're like, well, we know this is what we want, we're just going to wait and pause the process, and then nobody's out any more money. I just hate the thought of like us designing something, making it a full-blown set of construction documents, and then find out it's way too expensive, and then to redo that set is basically going back to the drawing board and starting all over. So it's like, let's just get enough information on there that we can even find out if the project is feasible. So that's
Yeah.
that's what we do.
Yeah, that's very nice. And also, like when you mentioned that the site, so the design might change anyways because the site is different.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. You can't take a house and just plop it on any piece of property just because it fits.
No. Yeah, some people do that, but it's not the ideal.
It's not ideal. I agree.
Yeah. But I really like that vision of yours of making the house smaller and then they can have all the things they want and then they have more land as well instead of filling the whole, land with a house. So going back to residential, because you were doing commercial,
Mhm.
but the initial, going back to your story of, you were building, you were designing or looking at magazines and seeing drawings and seeing pictures of houses and moving forward, you went to an inner journey, a lot of inner journey, and how do I bring this to the community? How do I spread the word? Not only helping my clients, but helping other architects, other designers, and like all these processes for today. And I wonder, who are you today, and how, you mentioned it already, but like how do you end up integrating all of this and going back to residential?
Well, so this goes back to probably me as a child, right? Like I was always shy, introverted. I was a people pleaser to a fault. Like and I didn't even realize how much of a people pleaser I was until, I mean, I knew I was. Like that was some of the inner work that I did over a decade ago, was just like, you've got to start saying no. Like doing things because it makes someone else happy and you miserable is not a reason to do it. Or just because you can do it easily doesn't mean you need to do it for cheap or free or all of that. But I was at my mom's house going through the basement looking at like some old yearbooks or something, and I found like a senior year high school, kind of like a baby book, but it was like your senior year book or whatever, and you fill in all of the different questions that it has. And one of the questions was, when are you happiest? And I wrote, I'm happiest when everyone around me is happy. And it almost like broke my heart. I was just, oh my God, like that's when you're happiest. Like, that's not even true. Like, I felt so sorry and so bad for 18-year-old me that felt like she couldn't even be happy enjoying the things that she loved and the things that made her happy. It was also dependent on people outside of her, as that's when she was happiest. And so I challenged myself to answer that question today. And so my answer today is that I'm happiest when I'm able to share my light with the world, share who I authentically am with the world. And I know it's not always safe to share who you truly are, but I know I'm safe in the community of people I've surrounded myself with. I'm safe, in my home. I am safe to trust my messages. I am safe to share my light with the world. And so I think for me, that's who I am today. Somebody that shows up as authentically me. Like, I want to share who I am, what I know, anything that could help someone else out. I just want to share myself with the world, whoever that may be.
Beautiful. That is so beautiful. I want to add that I took one of your courses. It was a free workshop that you had, and it was about lighting. Yeah, and I actually ended up like asking questions during the live you did.
Okay. Oh,
And one of the question was like the lighting in if there's like a big window, like the one behind me right now. And it was so nice because it's like I thought you were a genius detailer, and so happy that you share all of this with the world and that you have many freebies in your website and that you have courses to educate other people and other architects or designers like myself. And I think it's such a beautiful offering. And the way you show up, you're so, it's like not even sweet, but it is true. It's like authentic. I agree. You show up very authentic to everything. Yeah, even today. So I'm
thank you.
so thankful for you.
That's very sweet. I appreciate that. I was thinking too, I have, so after I made my ebook, I made another. I don't think I ever really sold it, but I put it as like a bonus or upsell or whatever on the ebook. But it was called Homemaker: How to Design the Perfect Floor Plan. But I really channeled like that soulful home on how to really do the work and think about it on a spiritual level of, understanding your why, thinking about the spaces that you really need in your home. How are they going to serve you and all aspects of your community, as well as like safety, and just a lot of connecting it to not just who you are and what you want for your family, but kind of how you want to serve the community in general, and just the way, um, how there's different aspects of your life, health and fitness and eating right and, fellowship and feeling safe. So I created another sort of guide called Homemaker. And so I was going to say, if you want, I'll have it on my website. And I don't know if you do show notes or whatever, but I can send you the link.
I do.
And then they can use the code like Space Whispering, and then
Beautiful.
they can have it for free. So it'll be another freebie that people can have.
Wow, that is so nice. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'll make sure to add it to the show notes.
Oh, good. Yes, good.
Yes, yes.
It was like one of the first things that I was just like, I've got to get something else out there. And it just like almost fell out of me, I think, because it was so connected to that why part of me and helping somebody create a floor plan that responds to who they are and the land that they're designing for. So in addition to the other freebies, yes, your listeners can have that one for free as well.
That's amazing. Wow, what a privilege. Okay, so anything else you want to share with us today?
I think so. I don't know. I've just enjoyed talking to you so much. This has been so fun. And I feel like kindred soul here. You just really get the love for just, yeah, all things design and all things just growth and inner wisdom. So I appreciate you having me.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed it so much, and like to get to know you apart from like the digital, the one-on-one is such a privilege, and I'm so grateful that this happened. And
Well,
I
thank
hope we
you.
can collaborate in other things too.
I hope so too. Yes, I agree.
Thank you, Jen.
Yeah, thank you.
Space Whispers. Thank you for spending time with me today, your host, Rainy, on the Space Whispering podcast. I hope today's episode gave you something to reflect on, inspire you, or energize you to create something beautiful. Help us grow the soulful community and spread the love by subscribing to the podcast, leaving a review, or sharing this episode with your community. If you're feeling called to transform your inner or outer spaces into a true reflection of you, let's connect. Schedule a discovery session with me at rainy.co or Instagram rainy_. What soulful actions will you take today? Keep listening to the whispers of creation and let your soul's magic flow into the world. See you soon. Besitos.